Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host Bryan. We're going to wrap up this week with a special selection, which is where one of you tell me exactly what it is I need to check out. Today's special selection comes at us from a person from Germany. Hello Bryan, I'd like you to react to the song Waanzin Roept Mijn Naam. Madness is Calling My Name. It's a translation of that by the Dutch all-female black metal band Asagraum. It's the last song on their latest album, on which it is preceded by an overall rather simple, quiet, and reflective 3-minute instrumental that at the end becomes more and more uneasy. So, let's dive into this and see what Asagraum is bringing to the table today. That's black metal. Very high pitch though, focusing a lot on the treble of our lead guitar. It ends up being a bit chirpier than I expect. That's more of what I expect for black metal. Cool little melody here with this riff. Right back to the blast beats. Oh, this is our intro actually, but with vocals on top this time. Slight expansion on that same riff. Oh, but new harmonic direction. Okay. Most other bands would have went right back to the 16th notes, but we kept this going on with a really cool syncopated groove coming from the drums. Also very cymbal based, which is not traditional black metal. Nice bass presence. Timing's getting a little off. Yeah, building back up into this intensity rather than using harsh contrast, I can get behind that. And this peak right here, not just of rhythmic intensity, but also harmonic and melodic intensity, I feel is well earned. Yeah, there's those offbeat accents again from the drummer. Yeah, wild stuff. Certainly enjoyed that more than most black metal that gets presented to me. But a lot of that's due to the sheer contrast on this. We kick it off and we have guitars are giving us a bit higher pitched notes. I do think they're a bit too chirpy for me personally, but it is just nice to hear higher ranges out of some black metal playing. From there, we bring things down pitch wise, we bring the vocals in, drums come in, 16th note stuff, just all the way through here. Actually, we started with the 16th notes from the drums, didn't we? I remember the song just started at like 10. um, but yeah, so it doesn't take long though for us to reduce the intensity. We bring in this very atmospheric, slower guitar riff. The drums kind of back it off to more of a halftime feel, keeping the energy, but just not the intensity. I enjoyed that. We do a back and forth on a little bit of this, and we hit the bridge. That brings in a very ambient, quieter, introspective idea. This is not unusual for the genre, but usually it is short lived. Maybe one repetition through, maybe repeating it a second time, and then immediately contrasting it with going back up to full intensity. And I felt that the build up here, turning it into a slow burn, and allowing the intensity to be ramped up into to hit that peak that we had at the end of the track was really well done. And it made the ending, it made getting back up to that 10, at least to me, feel earned. It didn't feel like it was forced, and it wasn't done through sharp contrast, which is something I feel, maybe it's just because I've been given a lot of iterative black metal recently, but I feel like that is something I hear a lot in black metal, is you bring the intensity down for a second, just to be a palate cleanser, and then you just spike it back up. And yeah, I mean, that works 100%. I'm not going to say that it's not effective. It does make the high intensity parts, makes them feel punchy again. It gives them that power again. It's quite effective at being a contrasty palate cleanser. It's just not my favorite type of composition. That's, I mean, yeah, that's a very subjective take on it. And I'll stand behind it though. Maybe it's just because I've heard it too often. Maybe it's just personal taste. I don't know. I prefer to build back up into things if possible, because to me that's a really good type of storytelling. That's not to say that an immediate rough transition is bad storytelling. You can certainly make it work, but to me it just feels, well, I mean, even a slow burn's I was gonna say it feels cliche, but slow burns are cliche too. They're can you really call it cliche? Either of them? It's just such a standard part of music for all of time that it feels overdone, but that's just because those are your two options. If you want to change intensity, you have two choices. Oh man. This is one of my favorite parts about doing this is challenging my own preconceptions about things. Because I was just about to rattle that off. I mean, that was just my opinion at that time. I'm not going to say that it wasn't. I'm not going to say that, it was a slip of any kind. No, I mean, I legitimately felt that in the moment, but I immediately interrogated it, and yeah, that is not a good opinion to have because of what I said. There's just no other way to do it. You either immediately change or you gradually change. Neither one of them is any more reductive than the other. So yeah, just personal taste. I'm not going to try to back it up then. Maybe I'll figure out why I like one more than the other some other time in life. But yeah, so we have the build up that leads us into the big moment that ends the track out. Although we do have a little shift at the end where we had the new guitar riff and the new drum pattern going on there. I thought that was a nice way to bring the intensity down just a little bit and act as a bit of a releasing of energy after we hit our peak. Very nice way to wrap that up. So that's the general scope of things. It's very black metal all the time. It's either focused on high intensity or pure atmosphere. And that's not to say that the high intensity parts aren't atmospheric. It's just at least the way that I feel those parts are about the aggression of it. It's about the repetition of those heavy attacks, which is atmospheric, but to me isn't the core element. It's not my core experience with it. Whereas when we bring things down a little bit and we explore slower, higher reverb guitar ideas and drumming with less attacks in them, that just feels more atmospheric to me. But regardless, that is what black metal tends to be. It's high intensity atmosphere. That's what they do best. Atmospheric black metal to me still sounds kind of like an oxymoron because even non-atmospheric black metal tends to be very atmospheric. So, um, yeah, that's just the genre's strength as far as I'm concerned, is crafting really heavy, dense, palpable atmospheres. And this song does that in spades. But what I enjoy about it is where it deviates. And one particular place is the drumming. And this is what I want to focus on for a second. I do have a question if anybody knows, what are the drummer's influences? I brought this up earlier in the week. I don't remember what video it was, but I had mentioned something that I could hear something in their playing that told me that they didn't exclusively listen to metal for their inspiration. And I don't even remember what instrument it was, but that's exactly what's happening here again. To me, this is not a person who exclusively listens to black metal. In fact, this might not even be a drummer who grew up listening to black metal. It may be that black metal is a new fascination for them, a new outlet for their creative expression, and that they might have grown up playing drumming of a different flavor. The reason I say that is because while there are more experimental forms of black metal, the very traditional side of it, which a lot of this stems from, is based on repetition of rhythm. Constant eighth notes, constant 16th notes. There isn't really a sense of syncopation in black metal traditionally. And yet here we have that. Sure, we have our blast beats, we have our fast 16th notes, rigid alternating bass and kick, that kind of stuff. But there's also sections in here that take more of a rock style to it. We also have that really cool syncopated rhythm at the end. There's a part in the middle bridge that is more hi-hat focused, very cymbal focused, which we don't see too often in black metal. In fact, it happens so rarely usually I bring up the same example every time, which was from a reaction like 2, 3 years ago, maybe, of Exercises in Futility. And I can't remember the drummer's name. I know y'all told me it's like Dark Side or Black Side or something like that. And he's just very symbol oriented. Not many black metal drummers are, though. I don't hear it too much in all the black metal y'all have made me listen to over the years. But I hear a lot of cymbal work in here, and we have a cymbal focused section, which I thought was very cool. Accents only on, I think it was snare accents on 4 of every bar, which is, I mean, black metal drummers love their snare, and this utilized it very sparingly in that pattern. And then again, at the end of the track, we had offbeat accents on cymbals, which just, black metal doesn't do offbeat accents ever. Everything's on a downbeat. So again, those are little moments where it tells me the drummer, at least if nothing else, doesn't exclusively take inspiration from black metal music, but I'd even go further than wager that they didn't start on black metal, that this is something that they have moved into after learning patterns for other styles of music, or at least one other style of music, which I think is cool. Um, because I don't hear that too often in black metal. Black metal just feels very insular. I know there's the second wave stuff, there's post black metal, there's experimental black metal. This is stuff that's pushing it outside of, the rigid first and third wave ideas. But within those, there's like very little change. Everything is the same, and it feels like once you get sucked into that, if you started there, particularly maybe you picked up drumming in your teens and you got into black metal as your teens, you sort of just learn black metal drumming, and there's very little change to that. And so black metal drumming to me is sort of stagnated in a way, that it's really refreshing just to hear rock ideas in it. I really enjoyed those. So I'm glad that this band has this drummer to keep things interesting. But also, I'm glad this band has this guitarist, because we do take things down a notch. One of the things that I criticize most about black metal, one of my biggest hurdles, is again repetition of rhythm, which isn't just a percussion thing. Even when it comes to guitars, we listen to black metal guitarists do something a bit more melodic, or kind of slow things down a little bit and go for, a riff that isn't just driving energy, and it's still using 16th notes, or sometimes maybe dipping it down to 8th notes. You just don't hold notes out in black metal too often, and I'm really glad that this guitarist allows these notes to ring out, and that we don't have this constant attack. It provides maybe not something too apparent to others. Maybe it's a very subtle change, but for me it's drastic to have this rhythmic contrast as well. It's not just enough for the song's energy to dip a little bit, for the notes to change from 16th to 8th notes. I really need more contrast in my interludes, in the bridges, the sections where the song brings its energy down. And I think the guitarist allowing the notes to ring out, of utilizing non-rigid rhythms, that is, rhythmic ideas that are composed of more than one note length, and bringing that into play here, it really helps the bridge breathe in a way, and acts as a palate cleanser, and even just a moment for me to relax in a way that most quieter sections of black metal don't. And yeah, I mean, I suppose there's a possibility that the true cult black metal listeners aren't going to find this palatable, that it's too soft or too slow or whatever. Everything that I've praised, they find to be a negative in it. That's fair. Everyone has their own opinion. But it's these types of changes that are going to bring me into black metal if I'm ever going to get into it. And you guys have been trying for 4 years, and it's still something I'm very much at arm's length on, and not something that I'm looking to listen to on my own yet. So maybe it'll never happen. But this is something that I feel is well within the realm of the standard third wave sound. It's not the experimental post black metal stuff that's coming out now. Um, it's still very much closely tied to the traditional third wave sound, but it does enough as far as contrast and change and just allowing the song to evolve and explore more than one feeling and sound, that's going to get me interested in the genre. And so I think a lot of that comes down to the guitarist and the drummer. As for the vocals and the bass, I'm glad there is bass here at all. Just knowing that the producer gave the bassist some presence is very cool. The bass has some nice lines in here. They're a bit overshadowed by the guitarist in a lot of situations, but the bass does get some places where it gets to do some unique ideas, and I like that. I'm hoping that if I checked out this album, which came out last year, right? Yeah, October, so it's not even a year old yet. If I checked out the rest of the album, I kind of hoped that I would be able to hear more bass lines, cool little bass licks here and there. Um, and then the vocal work is it's what I expect. It's a black metal, harsh. There's very little change to it, very little contrast. There's a couple of it sounds like she's doing different mouth shapes in order to create the perception of different pitches, but for the most part, it's all very tightly constrained as far as pitch, which means that texture and rhythm are going to be its main qualities. The texture doesn't really change. There are some interesting rhythmic ideas across the vocal lines, but I mean, harsh vocals in general are they're a hurdle for me. I think they always will be. For the sheer fact that a lot of harsh vocals tend to be a bit more a bit less dynamic than clean vocals. There's less pitch, less delivery alterations, stuff like that. I mean, there's certainly harsh vocalists out there who are doing like 15 different vocal deliveries in a song. I mean, you have to just throw off a popular name, your Will Ramoses of the world. But yeah, when it comes to stuff like this that's more in the traditional metal vein of just make a sound and stick with it for a whole song, even a whole album, maybe even a whole career, I just need a little more dynamic work to it. Um, but it's well done, and so I don't want to diminish the work that goes into it. I certainly can't make this black metal sound, so I'm not over here to throw shade. Um, and you know, it does help retain that sound. If the guitar gets a little more experimental, the drums are a little bit more experimental, if your vocals are a little bit more experimental, you really start pushing away from that black metal sound. And like I said, the cool thing about this is that it sort of acts as a bridge song, maybe a bridge band, maybe a bridge album, I don't know, but it retains a lot of that core black metal sound that I'm not a huge fan of, but interprets it and re-envisions parts of it in ways that create less friction for me. And if there was a way to pull me into that traditional third wave sound, this band might be able to do that. So, like I said, you don't want to break down too many of those ties to the roots, or else you're going to be doing something new entirely. Um, and so, having the vocals as they are is probably a really good thing as far as audience retention and band growth and stuff like that. But if they ever decided to do something different with the vocals, maybe even just add some cleans in every once in a while, oh, you might have a fan on your hands. Jeez, that might be the last thing to get me into black metal is just put some cleans in there every once in a while. Bam, you've turned me into a black metal fan. I don't know if that's really what would happen, but I suppose it's a possibility because I really love the drum expression in here. I love the guitar expression in here. I love the fact that the bass is present, the vocals. You put those to my liking, and you might have me on track to enjoying some black metal here. Let me check out some lyrics, and then we're gonna wrap this one up. All right, lyrics are in Dutch, translated by Google. There's probably a few things in here that don't translate particularly well, but I do get a very clear, at least surface level idea, even if maybe some metaphors get lost along the way. We have a you and an I. We have the phrase, you are my curse, you are my lover, though I don't necessarily want to take this into that romantic relationship perspective. It could also be something totally different where there is love incorporated, but not necessarily in that way, because the you says, you came to me in the dark night. Of the soul, of the mind, of the flesh, I felt the burning of your hands through my skin, the call of madness. So, I'm not entirely sure who the you is, if there maybe is a supernatural element to it. I don't really think it matters too much in my interpretation, but I do want to point it out there that this might not be a love song in a sense. What's interesting is that there's this constant comparison between the warmth of the you and the coldness of the I. It says, where it was cold, where it was empty, where my heart was frozen with coldness, hellfire ignited deep within me. So we have the burning of your hands and the coldness of my heart. We have fire and ice coming together here. It says, you're my curse, my lover, you're the flames that blind me. Again, your fire. It says, I want you, so be part of me forever. I want your pagan blood. I want to devour you. So, taking a very different perspective on wanting to be with you forever kind of idea. The next stanza, though, speaks about negativity, maybe toxicity within this relationship, whatever it is. It says, I wanted you, your chaos and evil, but did you want power? Did you want hatred? Did you want delusions? Did you want my despair and tears? So madness calls my name. The dagger is sharpened. The demons disappear with your eyes. When the end touches you, it makes you soft and silent. Your body is the most beautiful sight of death. So, what I kind of get out of this is that these two people, we'll just go with people, came together and there was sparks. At one point, she says, through my lust, the call of madness. So it's a very immediate physical chemistry between them. And it turns out that this other person wasn't great. Just wanted despair and tears, or at least it was questioned. Was that what you wanted from me? Was my despair and tears? And she ends up killing him and speaks romantically about the sight of the corpse. Very, very sinister, very dark, very black metal. It kind of has a feeling of ritual sacrifice in a sense, given some of the ideas like the demons disappeared with your eyes, sharpening the dagger. Um, yeah, I mean, it's got the twist that I would expect from a black metal ending. I'm trying to think of how it fits with the music, though. There's certainly a darkness to it that I think works well, but I would also need to hear where some of these lines are present. For instance, do any of them, well, which of them are present during the more introspective guitar bit in the bridge? Because should I be reading any of this with a sort of, like a counterintuitive, well, it's not counterintuitive, it's just utilizing the music to accentuate something that's not necessarily in the lyrics. Because a lot of the lyrics are aggressive, and they are delivered aggressively, but if they are sung against or screamed against, growled against, some softer, more introspective music, that could imply something about the words themselves that might not necessarily be there in the lyrics. So I'm kind of curious how all that works, because otherwise I don't really see how the introspective part really comes into play here, unless that's the part where it's like, madness calls my name, the dagger is sharpened, sort of plotting and planning this murder, which I could see working rather well, bringing the energy down, rising it up as she makes this murder, and then having the peak be the completion of this murder, to say the word again. um, okay, those are my thoughts. Asagraum's Waanzin Roept Mijn Naam. I don't think I pronounced that right this time. As I've said in the past, I usually put it over and over and over in my ear, hearing the pronunciation, and then I start the video, and I have a decent one usually at the beginning, depending on the language. I definitely have better pronunciations in different languages. Dutch, I don't think is one I have a really strong sense of. But by the end of the video, what are we, 30 minutes later, I've completely forgotten how it sounded. So yeah, that one might not have been my best pronunciation of it. Anyways, those are my thoughts on this track by Asagraum. What are yours? Give me your thoughts, perspectives, opinions. If there's anything you'd like to correct me on or add on to what I said, put all that stuff down in the comment section. Above that, in the description box, you'll find a link to Linktree. It takes you to this menu right here. You can find links to my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of them. That wraps it up for today. I'll be back tomorrow, though, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC. I'm going to be checking out an album from Vulcan, which I think is prog rock. We'll find out tomorrow, I suppose. There's also the live stream on Sunday at 11 a.m. EST, 3 p.m. UTC, and if none of that interests you, we return back to the traditional reactions on Monday. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.